Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to my office. How is everybody doing today? Sorry I started a little late. I mentioned on Twitter I did have a dentist appointment, so got that one a little long. Just got back from that. But here I am, ready to go. Dota 2 Attitude, you get to watch the whole stream today. Take an extra long lunch break? Or taking a day off? Something like that? Yeah, you did break your intro by renaming yourself, Calvin. I need to fix that. Why don't we go ahead and fix that right now, in fact. You left the job. Uh-oh. Is everything okay? Then it's looking like they closed the company. Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I hope everything's okay for you there, Dota 2 Attitude. Oops. This is Calvin's old profile. We're going to create a new one with Calvin's new name, which is Coding with Calvin TV. So there's the new profile. We're going to like fan information with Calvin will be enabled. There's the YouTube code. Start time 2:17, end time 2:20, and 6-second timeout. This is what it will look like. So let's go ahead and save that, and there we go. So there we got Calvin's new one in there. You just wish you got laid off, but yeah. Well, that's okay. Why do you wish you got laid off? Did you get some sort of unemployment benefits or something? Yeah, unemployment. So you left, you quit, and then the company shut down. So seems like not great timing. I gotta turn on my light here. My face is looking a little dark. There we go. Oh, now my shirt's looking a little sparkly. Oh, sparkles! Get them off! Get them off! Get them off! Let me go ahead and change this up a little bit. One probably caused the other. Oh, you leaving the company caused them to shut down. That checks out. 50. Let's see. That's a little better. Let's go with that. It's still a little sparkly. Yeah, there we go. That's fine. Okay, let's get into it. So I got your thing fixed, Calvin. I don't know if it's going to trigger because I added it after you first commented, but next time it'll work for sure. Yep, didn't work because it's on a 24-hour 24-hour what do you call it, throttle. I could go in and delete that throttle, but I have to log into the database, and I don't have a feature for that. So yeah, cooldown. Sure, there you go. All right, so this is number 84 of office hours. So everybody, welcome to my office. Yeah, you do know fancy words. So today, what I want to start, and there's no way I'm going to finish this because it's probably going to be a lot of work. I think we'll see. Is I've been putting this off for a while. The chat bot that I just used to update Calvin's name. The chat bot is built with Couchbase. You know, your PR got rejected. Not that disappointed. Which PR was that? The documentation PR? Oh, put a link to that there. I'm interested to see why that was rejected. Because if I remember, the backtick documentation improvement. Yeah, I'd like to see. Oh, it's elsewhere in the docs. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, if it's not where you expect it to be, then that still might be an issue there. So post that link to that PR. I'll take a look at that. But thank you for the PR anyway, Dota 2. It is appreciated. Okay, so anyway, the chatbot is running on ASP.NET and is using Couchbase. So every message the chatbot processes and it will save to Couchbase along with other data, and it will query things from Couchbase and get data from Couchbase. I've been avoiding this for a while. The chatbot is running with the .NET library, the .NET SDK for Couchbase version 2.7 something, I think. However, there has been a recent release of the .NET library to version 3, and I think we're on 3.0.1 or 3.0.2 right now. So it is time for me to really dig into upgrading to the new Couchbase library, because ultimately there'll be some cool stuff that this will be able to give me, including collections and scopes and other sort of improved features and SRV and all that kind of stuff. And the other thing is that the dependency injection extension that I'm using has also been upgraded to work with Couchbase SDK 3. So I don't really have any excuses left not to upgrade, other than it's going to be some work, because it's a major version change. So we're going from version 2 to version 3, and with a major version number change, that means it's likely going to be breaking changes. And in our case, the main thing is going to be everything is pretty much async only now. This is kind of the direction that .NET is going and .NET libraries are going, is that async, async, async. So everything's going to be async. And that's going to be, I'm doing a lot of async stuff already, but it's still going to be a change. And the other thing is collections. So I have to use a collection now to interact with data. To start with, collection isn't really a fully supported server feature yet. It's just the SDK has added that collection there, so that if you go to Couchbase server, the UI doesn't show collections or anything like that. But there is this concept of default collection, and so I need to change everything to use the default collection. So those are the two biggest changes that I know of right now. We're going to go through and find out if there's anything more. But that's what we're going to work on today. I'm going to start on that today. So there's going to be a lot of .NET, a lot of C#, a lot of async. Might write some extension methods to make my life easier, things like that. So we're going to go through and we're going to see how it goes. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them here. Anything at all. None of them are considered stupid. Yeah, async and await. And await, yes. Not await, await, yes. We're going to do a lot of that today. Optimistically, maybe we're not going to do that much. But that's my async joke. Await. Because you did it backwards? Is that the joke? So ask questions in this channel, anything, especially with async and await stuff. I'm far from an expert on async and await, but I've gotten kind of used to it. With the exclamation mark, I'm very clever. I don't know, is that some sort of JavaScript or joke or something? I don't.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Surly Dev's got a question, and welcome, Surly Dev. What is your middle name? My middle name? My middle name is actually my grandfather's first name, is Dale, D-A-L-E. Hopefully you aren't using this to steal my identity or something. But yes, D-A-L-E, which is, I think historically been mostly a woman's name, right? But Dale can be a man's name too. That was my grandfather's name, was Dale. And I actually kind of carried on this tradition. My son's middle name is my father's name. So my son is Matthew Kevin Groves. My father's name is Kevin. So, and I don't think he's going to be able to continue that tradition though, because then his son would have to be Matthew Groves. No, I guess not. No. If he wanted to name his son Matthew, it couldn't be Matthew Groves, right? But he could name his son something else and use Matthew as a middle name. So that's up to him, right? That's up to him and his wife, whatever. Let's see. Mother's maiden name is Nunya, which is after the holidays. My middle name is my dad's middle name, which is after the holiday his birthday is on. Yes, it's Nunya. That's my mother's middle name, Nunya. Okay, so yes, keep asking questions like that. See, that's not a stupid question at all. That's it's not related to coding, but feel free, ask questions. Haha, Mrs. Nunya Business. That's right. Is it hyphenated? Nunya Business. Hey, what's going on, Sean? Thanks for hanging out with us. Sean will be speaking at the Central Ohio .NET Developers Group this month? This month. Yes, looking forward to that. Talking about microservices, so that should be fun. I am a member of the Twitch Live Coders team. Oh, showing this Picard clips here in the commercial. But you can see all the team members here. There's 168 of us right now. This Saturday, the 20th. I'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, if you want to look for other live coders, start here. Twitch.tv/team/live coders. Check us out. See what we're doing. All kinds of different technologies. All kinds of different personalities. It'll be fun. You're going to give that talk in a few hours to Brighton, UK. Oh, interesting. I know Surly Dev is in the UK, I think. Maybe you want to post a little link? I'll allow it. Post a link to promote your Brighton presentation if you want to. Lana Lux, always at the top of the board here, because always doing cool stuff with game dev. But we're going to come back to this page near the end and find someone to raid, possibly. When I signed up for broadband with my telecom provider, I put "not telling you" in the mother's maiden name field. So this is what I do when companies still ask you to, and this isn't terribly novel, but companies ask you to put in information like, oh, what was the make of your first car, and what's your mother's maiden name, and what street did you grow up on, things like that. I'll use LastPass to generate some random characters and put them in there. Oh yeah, I grew up on old 5CD exclamation point R number sign street. And then I save those in LastPass. So I don't actually give my information out. I just give out, random characters. Now, some sites get even clever and like, oh, that doesn't seem like the name of a street to me. You can't use special characters, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't put any information in there that could lead to, if there was a data breach, that could lead to some problems. All right, so there's a meetup. It's .NET Southeast. Oh, so Southeast must refer to Southeast part of UK, I guess. I would just assume it would be like Florida or something. But there you go. So you go check it out. 101 attendees. Well, RSVPs anyway. Usually, since these are free, it's almost never 101 people show up. But that's good. That should be fun. Definitely check it out. This will be the session. Brighton is about an hour south of London. Okay, well there you go. Hypothetical question. I have a bunch of shell scripts. Why would all of them be green except one is white, which is a shell script I made? I think I know the answer to this question. You live in Brighton, different country. So I'm going to we're going to take a little detour here for Dota's question. So I assume when you say they're green, you're going to, when you do ls, when you're listing the files, they're different colors, like you're seeing right here. Is this what you're talking about? Because I think the reason these are different colors has to do with these permissions over here. And so this is permissions for those files, like what execution, read, writes, and all the different permissions that these files have. That's why. So what kind of flag using on the ls? I used ls-l because I like the column like that. But you can also just use plain ls, which will split them into columns. But ls-al, what Sean uses. Okay, I don't know the difference there. But yeah, this ls-l will show you the permissions here. So there you go. ls-al shows hidden files. Okay. This file is not executable. Yes, so these permissions are not necessarily just about what's executable or not. It has to do with the file permissions. I am not an expert on this, but if you look up like man on Schmod, this will show you some information about file mode, I guess, permissions, stuff like that. You can look into that. So this is kind of a core Linux concept, right? So definitely look into that. I don't know. Whenever I have a permissions problem, here's what I do, and this is what you should never do. But I say chmod 777 some file. That's not a good idea because you're giving basically every permission. Every permission to that file. So that's bad. Ever chmod an entire drive? I can't lie and say I've never done that. Trying to solve some file permission problem. But the only place I really used to use file permissions extensively was my media server, which I recently changed to use Windows. So I no longer have an active Linux server in the house here. The closest thing I have is what I'm showing you here with my WSL. And probably, I guess Android machines and Rokus, they're probably running on Linux, right? But yeah. You're speaking at Matt's group. It's not my group, okay? Don't call it my group. It's Central Ohio .NET Developers Group. It's condig.org. I'm just a steward of the group, so don't call it my group. And I'm not the sole organizer, right? So Calvin Allen, Alan Barber, a lot of Allens going on. Calvin Allen, Alan Barber, Matt Eland, and some others. Is Drew Carey from there? From where? From Central Ohio? No. Drew Carey is from Cleveland, which is northern Ohio. Yeah, he's from Ohio, yes. And some people say I look like Drew Carey, actually. Maybe without the beard, it's more apparent. But I have gotten that before. I look very much like Drew Carey. Drew Carey. So we'll see. Yep, you do look like Drew Carey. So Drew Carey, I don't think you really have a beard, but let's just see. Any similarities there? Whoop. Let's get his head down to my size. There, what do you think? Side by side? Similar? Oh yeah, he's definitely older than me. Superior hairline. Who has a superior hairline? Me or Drew Carey? Yeah, this is the one I get a lot as you look just like him, well, except for the dollar signs. Yeah, well. Who else have I gotten? I've also gotten, these are probably less true these days, but Brendan Fraser I've gotten sometimes. So a little bit Brendan Fraser there, a little bit, maybe a little bit. And sometimes I've gotten David Hyde Pierce a little bit too. A younger David Hyde Pierce. These days, definitely different, but a little bit of that. I don't know. Those are the three that I get, but mainly Drew Carey. You've been told you look like a young Eric Dane. I don't even know who Eric Dane is. Eric Dane, celebrity? Oh, he's from like one of those hospital shows, right? Yeah, I can see that a little bit. Let's see. Sean. Oh, crying out loud. I get Brad Pitt, swear that's totally me. Sean and Whitesell. Here we go. So there's Sean Whitesell, and there is the guy from Doctor Show. A little bit. A little bit. Okay, so anyway, we're the Live Coders team. Definitely come check this out. Twitch.tv/LiveCoders. And I can even put that little command there. You can check the link there. Okay, Awesome Developers streaming list. I'll just plug that one quickly. That's a GitHub that lists a bunch of streaming developers, not just on Twitch, not just on Live Coders, but everywhere. And you can submit to, if you're streaming, you can submit to that. To be honest, I'd rather be Drew Carey's stunt double than that other guy. Ain't no Drew Carey character doing dangerous stuff. Well, that's true. I don't know if he'd even have a stunt double. He's not done any action movies. That being said, when he hosted Price is Right, that can be dangerous because the people come out of the audience, and he actually got an injury from someone who like hugged him super hard and broke his shoulder or wrist or something from too hard of a hug. So, maybe he should have a stunt double. bit.ly/GrovesTube, you can go and find previously recorded episodes of this stream. So you can, do the old 2x, skip through it, or skip ahead. As dangerous as baseball. No. Baseball is far more dangerous than hosting a game show. Of course, baseball right now, it's completely safe because there is no Major League Baseball. Yes, and this is something I need to get back to, and maybe in an upcoming stream. So J.R. Lawhorn, I need to have him on the show, on the stream at some point. Have him into my office on the screen here, actually walking me through the Laravel extension to use Couchbase with Laravel. And you met him. You met Laravel? You met J.R. Lawhorn, or you met Laravel? Is there someone named Laravel? I don't know what that means. But he created a demo project based on the extension, and it's a whole thing. Taylor Otwell. No idea who you're talking about. Upcoming events. NDC Oslo is over. So that went well. I don't know if they're going to post recordings or what for NDC Oslo, but definitely keep an eye on that. I'll let you know if that happens. Taylor Otwell. Okay, the guy who wrote Laravel. Okay, cool. So we're gonna have J.R. Lawhorn somewhere. It's already on YouTube. What's already on YouTube? NDC Oslo? Really? They got up there that quickly? I find that hard to believe. I know that there was like a keynote that was broadcast on YouTube and some other events, but not every single presentation. I find that very hard to believe that they're up there already. But if they are, there you go. Go check them out. Live Coders Conference is coming up this Saturday, so you definitely want to log in and check that out. You already watched a segment by Dylan Beatty, so that's probably the keynote, because he did the keynote for NDC Oslo. But Live Coders Conference is coming up this Saturday, June 20th. You want to check that out. I think I don't know if this is official yet. Let me go and check. I don't want to announce anything. Oh, cool. This is a new conference page. That's good. These are all the different sessions that are going to be there. Lots of good stuff. Schedules, team sponsors. Oh, here we are. There it is. Look at that. Couchbase is sponsoring the Live Coders Conference. That's right. My employer, Couchbase, is sponsoring it. So you'll definitely want to go and check that out. That link is probably not correct. It goes to the right place, but it should go to developer.couchbase.com. Anyway, so there's a short video that will be about Couchbase during that, and you'll see yours truly in there doing a little spiel about Couchbase and maybe other things Couchbase related. So tune in for the awesome content, of course, and the awesome streamers, but keep an eye out for some interesting Couchbase stuff that happens during the conference. Should be good stuff. All right. Live at Manning Kubernetes Conference. I don't know if it's a conference per se. It's just sort of like a group of sessions with a theme. But they're calling it a conference, so you want to check that out. That's coming up here on June 30th, and yours truly will be presenting there. Some microservices stuff. Probably a lot of the same things that Sean will be talking about in his session. Not like an intro to microservices, but like ways to make your microservices more resilient and more, what's the word, Dota? What's the word I'm looking for here? Resilient and robust. Make them more robust. So that'll be my session called Autonomous Microservices. You want to check that out if you're interested in Kubernetes or microservices. That should be fun stuff. Okay, this is not what we're going to do today. We're going to start upgrading from Couchbase. Robust is a pretty good word. I'd say robust is a very robust word. We're going to start upgrading from Couchbase.NET SDK to 3.x. It was less than easy. You tried to switch your personal project to a NoSQL. It was less than easy. It was less than easy? I don't quite understand. Does that mean it was hard? If you would like no headaches with microservices, don't do microservices. Yeah, that is kind of the first slide, is basically no one wants to do microservices for me. Only do them if you have to. It was more than difficult. Well, Dota, if you would like to, maybe we can set up some time to do it on the stream or just on our own Zoom channel or something. We can walk through it and see what the sticking points are. I would love to know what the biggest challenges are from you for moving over to NoSQL. Is that the conclusion of your talk tonight, Sean? Have you basically just told me that I don't need to watch now? So you would be up for that. Okay, cool, Dota 2. Why don't you DM me an email address? Maybe we can set up some time for that. J.R. Lawhorn is ahead of you. He's in line ahead of you because he wants to show off the cool Laravel stuff, and I want to see the cool Laravel stuff in action. But after that, for sure, it would be great to see what the sticking points are, because that would help me help Couchbase maybe provide better documentation, tutorials, guides. It would help guide us more to see what's the sticking points for you. So I'll take a look at that message afterwards, and we'll set something up. I talk about what you need to know to do them right / well. They're harder than they look. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they are harder than that, because they look pretty hard already. And anytime you introduce network into something, it always makes it more challenging, never makes it easier. I was thinking earlier about a system I was thinking of building as a series of microservices. Maybe I misunderstand what microservices are. I mean, there's probably lots of technical terms and official definitions, but for me, it's just like services that run independently, but that communicate with each other over the network to make up a complete system. I mean, that's kind of the minimum definition, right? You can scale them independently, and that's kind of the benefit of them. You can organize your teams around them, so you can have one team focused on just this microservices, one team focused on another microservice. That's the nickel tour. I'm sure there's lots of other things about them, but I don't. Sean's session and my session aren't really like intro to microservices, but you still might want to come check them out. Come check out Sean's. Come check out mine. You can learn all about microservices, and mine is Manning on the 30th, and then Sean's is tonight. And also, Sean's is, if you can't make it to Sean's tonight, you're welcome to join the Central Ohio group on the 25th. Yes, the easy way is the wrong way, so come check that out. Okay, let's get to it. I want to set my current project. We're going to set current project to be that GitHub repo. So if you type bang current project, you'll get a repo. Your talk is at about 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, so that is about 11, 12. That's less than 3 hours from now. It's today, Sean's session. He said it was the same session tonight, or for you tonight, as it was going to be on the 25th in Central Ohio group. So, although, speakers never really give the same exact talk twice, right? There's always difference, like the way questions that come up and different audiences and things like that. But yeah, it's the same material, things like that. Time.is/England. What is this? Oh, okay. That's interesting. I actually have a little browser extension called Figure It Out that I use that shows the time zones here. But this is just for my team, so I know like where my team is. So like I have a teammate in Munich. There's me, teammate in Peoria. I have a couple teammates in Santa Clara, West Coast area. So this is what I use to see all of them at once. Time.is/Ohio. It's a pretty cool website. How detailed can you get? Like time is like Grove City, Ohio. Will that do anything? No match for Grove City. Like if I put spaces in there? Nope, nothing like that. You'd pick Munich of all those locations? All right. I'd pick Grove City. Time is ASTPT. Wow, interesting. Interesting site. Okay. So I have got this project here, and for the first things I can do is I'm just going to go manage NuGet packages. Haha, okay, Grove City, pretty cool too. Grove City is a real place, all right? It's not just because my last name is Groves. It's a real place, and has nothing to do with my name. It's just kind of a coincidence. Grove City, Ohio, real place. Here it is, Central Ohio, right there. This is where I live. Grove City population math. So, just to make this point, my last name is Groves with an S, and the city is Grove City. All right, so two distinctly different things. But yeah, this is where I live. And look at these famous people who've come from Grove City. Mike Mayers, Major League Baseball pitcher. Roy Kazak, so just one of many. Oh boy. Richard Cordray, yes. I used to work for him actually. He's from Grove City too. Let's add Matthew under notable people. Go for it, man. But I don't have an actual page on Wikipedia. So I'm not notable enough, I don't think, to be added. But hey, go for it. That would be awesome. Then you got to create a Wikipedia page for me. But I'm telling you, it's going to get automatically deleted because I'm not notable enough. Matt Groves, dude from Couchbase, code stuff. I mean, probably the closest thing I'd come to being notable for the purposes of Wikipedia is that I authored a book that was published, but it's not a notable enough book for Wikipedia. So Yeah. All right. What do I want to do? Okay, so NuGet packages. So notice here, I only have the one Couchbase package. It is you were a track star briefly in high school. Oh, okay. I don't know if high school track stars get Wikipedia pages either, unless they go on to be like Olympians or something. I don't even know if all Olympians get Wikipedia pages, if they're notable enough. So notice here, Couchbase extensions dependency injection. This one is just one package. The actual Couchbase SDK is included in that. So notice here we've got version 2.0.2, which is what I've been using. I can go upgrade to 3.0.1. You know a Trackstar Olympian? I should check. He dropped the baton. I assume you mean baton. Well, that's embarrassing. On the relay, I guess, the 100 or 400 meter relay or something like that. He dropped the baton. That's embarrassing. Oh, baton is a different thing. I thought it was baton. It was the the 100 meter relay. 100 meter relay baton. 100 meters relay. Yeah, baton. Okay. Baton. Yeah, not baton, baton. Because baton is like a name of like the thing that the baton twirlers, they twirl around, right? Baton twirler. That's why I know the word. Like the this thing. But it's different for the relay. List of people from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Are you on this list, Sean? Oh, no Sean's. No Sean's on this list. Yes, well, Tulsa is a much bigger city than Grove City, so that's why there's many more notable people from it. All right, so what I'm going to do is this is the easiest part of it, probably. Oh, Bill Goldberg? Like the wrestler Bill Goldberg is from Tulsa? I thought he's from Atlanta for some reason. Sean's not a good enough athlete, apparently. I really liked Goldberg a lot back in the 90s when I was really into wrestling. I'm getting more into wrestling these days, by the way. AEW is the show that I watch a lot now. Yeah, I used to be way into Bill Goldberg back in the WCW days. You added me to the Grove City? Yeah, let's see how long it takes until it's removed. There's currently 5 views here. Matthew D. Groves, author, developer, streamer on Twitch. Yeah, that's gonna stick around. We'll come back to this page later in the stream and see how long it takes Wikipedia to remove that. There's currently 5 views here. I mean 5 views. Anywho, okay. So this is the easiest part. I'm going to update this library to 3.0.1. Oh, 5 viewers. Yeah. 6, according to this number down here. And according to my slobs number as well. 5 viewers, 5 views. Okay. This is the easiest part. So just upgrading this, I'm going to update this extension library here. And this will just automatically update the actual Couchbase SDK as well. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's going to update it across all the projects in my solution automatically. Like 2 Utes, 5 U's. So there we go. Easy as that. So now we're upgraded, right? Done and done. Well, no, not quite, because this is a major version jump. We're going from version 2 to version 3. So there's lots of things that are breaking changes. Why are they called breaking changes? Well, I'm going to compile, and you're going to see why. Look at all those errors that I get now. Those things that are broken now because I upgraded the library. Okay? Now, but one thing that's very cool, if I go to my startup here, no, not program, startup, the actual Couchbase portion here, this hasn't changed at all. So this was really nice that it's still going to be injecting this Twitch bucket provider, which I created as just kind of a marker class, as a named bucket provider that corresponds to whatever bucket name is pulling from configuration, which happens to be called Twitch chat, which, by the way, I should make sure. that I have a bucket created locally. I'm using Couchbase Server 6.5.1 Community locally. There's my Twitch chat. Okay. So that part's working fine. It's the rest of the code that I'm starting to get errors from. So, what do you think's the best way to go about this? I guess we can probably just start from the top here and try to figure out what to change. So, are you running Couchbase in Docker? Right now, I'm not. I'm actually running it directly on Windows because I was testing out WinGet recently. That being said, I do have plenty of Couchbase images available in Docker. I switch between versions a lot, so I also have MySQL here and some other stuff. But yeah, I can run it either Docker, but right now I'm running it on just plain old Windows. So we've got some resharpers trying to help me out here. So notice that Couchbase Core isn't a namespace that exists anymore. Couchbase Nickel isn't a namespace that exists anymore. So that's interesting. Now what this bucket provider does, you really should get around to installing Docker. You absolutely should. How are you working on microservices without having Docker installed? It takes forever to learn. That's what I learned. Well, I don't know. I'm not a Docker expert, but I know enough to get by and use it. And I don't think you need to be it takes forever to get to that point. You learn a handful of commands, and that's going to be mostly what you're doing anyway. Kind of the same thing with Git, honestly, is Git's probably more complex than Docker, I think. But you learn a handful of commands, or you find yourself, that's what Sean just said. Or you find yourself a nice little UI that you can get comfortable with, and away you go. Sounds like another Twitch session to go through Docker basics. Yeah, maybe. I think I've done a lot of that, just sort of just by nature of using Docker here a lot. But git init, git add, git merge, git push, git branch, git remotes, git pull, git fetch, git checkout. That's important. Git checkout -b, sure. I do a lot of that stuff via UI. I don't even use the command line much anymore. What are these words, you non-using GUI heathen? Non-using GUI heathen? Yeah, exactly. Okay. So here's the thing. So I've got this iBucket, and that still exists in Couchbase. That interface still exists. That's still kind of one of the main things. But notice here that there is no more getBucket method on bucket provider. Poshgit, FTW. I'm a tortoise git myself. I know I'll speak for Calvin here and saying git kraken seems to be a tool that a lot of people are using a lot. Here's the problem here. This is the very first problem we're going to run into, is that bucket provider doesn't have getBucket method anymore. It does have. Hello? What's going on here? Where's my what happened? Where's my suggestions? Source tree. All right. My user group on the 23rd, we have 2 talks on it. One of the talks is on Git commands. Calvin still drops to the CLI occasionally, but I know he is very much in favor of Git Kraken. He's a Git Kraken ambassador. Why isn't my IntelliSense working here, Calvin? What happened? Without source tree, I wouldn't have realized the other dev made 100 branches simultaneously. That seems like a lot. I'm not getting any kind of... Okay, I'm going to restart Visual Studio. I'm not getting any IntelliSense, and no way am I going to try this kind of refactor without IntelliSense or ReSharper. It does seem like an excessive number of branches. I don't know why you'd create that many branches at the same time, especially. Okay, background tasks are still running. Do we have anything working yet? ReSharper, hello? There we go, bucket provider. Okay. So what I had before was I was setting the bucket here. This is, by the way, this is a request handler running in Mediator. It's just an implementation of the mediator pattern in .NET. But this is getting injected from the Couchbase extension. So this is just some constructor injection. No big deal. Pretty standard. And then what I do is I take that provider and I get the bucket from it, and I store the bucket as a private member of this class, which is then used later in the actual handler part of the code. So you're going to see the problem here shortly. There's no get bucket. There's a get bucket async. Okay? So then I have to say await get bucket async. Now, if you know your async and your await and your C#, you already know there's a problem here. Because, well, the await cannot be used, can only be used inside of async methods. But if you're one step ahead of me, you've probably already seen this. I'll just go ahead and add async to this. But, okay, that's a problem. We cannot have asynchronous constructors. So those are not allowed. So this is a problem. Now you got to await that. I mean, you can't await a constructor. You can't do an await new, that sort of thing. So what I have to do then is, what I'm thinking, so get bucket result is, no. I'm not going to do that in the constructor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm just going to save bucket provider. And so I'm going to keep bucket provider there instead. I can do that without being asynchronous. But now down here, it looks like I need bucket. Now I know that's not going to be the case, but I need a bucket down here. So did you just look and see how much code he actually pushed? What, to those 100 branches? 100, what were they branches? Yeah, 100 branches. Seems like if you're making 100 branches, that's probably a mistake. You probably did it by accident. Or, for whatever reason, every commit that you made was in a different branch. And you didn't mean to do that, right? You didn't quite understand Git. Okay, so here's the thing. Like, I have bucket provider. So suppose I want to get bucket. I can say bucket provider dot get bucket async, which is fine. I can just use a wait for that. And this is an async method, so we're already in good shape. All right? So I've got the bucket there. We'll just make it underscore bucket, because that matches the naming here already. Okay, now we're on a second problem, is that exists and insert are no longer methods on buckets. That's right, so we've got to get down to the collection level. We say bucket.default collection. So in the new versions Couchbase that's coming soon, you have bucket, which is sort of the top level container. And then inside a bucket, you can have one or more scopes. So that's think of it kind of like a multi-tenant application. Each one might have a scope, for instance. And then inside of scopes, you have collections. So right now, if I say default collection, that's going to be like default scope, default collection. I can't really show you collections in Couchbase UI just yet. It's kind of a developer preview feature, but it's coming soon. But I still need a collection. Collection is where the exists method and the insert method are. So I need to get down to the collection level to do this. All right. So if I change this to collection, what is the problem there? Okay. So the insert seems to work okay, but the exist doesn't seem to work. Collection is a database word, isn't it? I mean, some databases use collection. If you're talking relational, typically you don't hear the word collection. You hear like database or catalog or table or things like that, or schema, but you don't hear collection. Collection is NoSQL word. Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. It's used by a few NoSQL databases. Collection is kind of I don't know, just a programming term, I guess, like a list. Like in .NET, you have iCollection interface, right? It's just it's an interface you can use to create lists or maps or dictionaries or anything that contains multiple pieces of data. Yeah, certainly. That's what my point was. He was committing every modification on a new branch. Like somehow he had gotten the wrong Git recipe. Sets, yeah, sets, that kind of stuff, right? So collection, in .NET anyway, collection is kind of like one of the base classes. And by implementing collection, you get like enumerators and things like that. But it's also in Couchbase parlance, it's a group of related. Well, I don't know if they'll be related, but a group of documents that have been cordoned off into a specific area, into a collection. And so just kind of to show this, buckets have scopes, scopes have collections, and then collections have documents. All right, documents are individual pieces of JSON. Individual pieces of JSON. All right. So the thing with buckets at the Couchbase level is that buckets is where you define things like replication and memory quotas and cross data center replication and different things like that, right? Scopes and collections. Buckets is like your DB name. Yeah. Buckets is like the database basically. And then inside of buckets in future versions of Couchbase, you have scopes and collections. And then from my point of view, right now, and these are kind of like cutting edge for Couchbase, is that these are almost purely organizational. Like they, as far as I know, I mean, these things could change, or I could not know the whole picture here, but these are organizational. So these would be similar to, you might say, like something like a table, right? Inside of a database, inside of a bucket. It's not exactly like a table, but kind of like that. So a scope might be useful for like a multi-tenant application. So if you're building a piece of software and like the last place I used to work, we did this. We built a piece of software and we sold it to a number of different companies. So each company would be their own tenant. So maybe in our database they have their own scope. There's the Acme scope, and there's the ABC company scope, and things like that. And then inside the scope, then you'd have collections, and collections would be probably documents that are related to each other. So you might have a users collection, an invoice collection, a catalog collection, things like that. And then inside collections, you have individual pieces of data. So a JSON document representing a user, a JSON document representing an invoice, etc. It's a little weird because when I work with the data in code, I generally want an array of objects. Yeah, so you can think of an array as kind of like a collection, or you can think of a collection as basically having an array behind the scenes, and it provides extra things on top of the array. Arrays, in my mind anyway, arrays are kind of lower level, right? You have to figure out indexes and resizing the arrays and things like that, and generally, things that you do at the C or C++ level, right? Unless you're using the STL. But anyway, with .NET, I use a list or a dictionary. And so I get additional features that are for convenience, but it's probably an array or multiple arrays behind the scenes. Cool. So I could pull it out directly without mutating it before working with it. Yes, that's the idea. If your data structure is complicated, then your code gets complicated. Not necessarily. If your data structure is complicated, the idea of encapsulation is that it hides all those complicated details behind that structure, right? So a list in .NET is easier for me to add items to and look up items and sort because I have all those nice little methods built on the list, and they do all the hard work of resizing the arrays and copying the arrays and sorting them and things like that behind the scenes. That's my view. So anyway, that's what we got. Okay, so now we've got a problem with, and I haven't gotten down to this section yet, collection. So that looks like it kind of works. Maybe I'm going to put that off for now. I want to focus here on this exists. So we've got, I basically want to test to see, does homepage info doc exist? Okay, so await collection dot exists async, and that's the key of the document. What is that returning? That's returning an IExist result. I'll be RB. All right, Dota 2. IExist result. So it's not a true or false like it was previously. So does homepage. This has a method called exists. Okay, very interesting. All right. So can I do this? Dot exists like that. Would that be good enough? It looks like that might be good enough. It's getting a little harder to read that way. But I already had those extra parentheses there, so that's kind of nice. Okay, collection.exists async, and then that returns, instead of a Boolean, it returns an object, which one of the methods is an exists, which isn't a Boolean. So it seems like a little bit extra work, but there's probably a good reason to have the extra step. There's some other properties in there, in that object. All right, what else? So that seems to work. I guess we'll have to try this out at some point. This is the, what is this, get dashboard view handler? Okay. All right, get the homepage info and set account. Okay, so we have get. And again, it's going to be collection. Get async. Cannot be used with type arguments. Okay, yes, this is also something that's a little different, I think, as well. So I want to homepage info doc equals await collection, and to get async, I don't specify a type anymore. Homepage info, I'm not sure why this is, but then I can say await and then dot content as homepage info. So that's kind of what I'm doing instead. Okay, so take away this from here, and we're saying dot content. Huh? Oh, collection. And this just may be, I mean, I kind of see why this might be a good thing to do semantically, because previously, if you specify the type up here, that, you know, maybe that's implying something that it's not really behind the scenes. Like, we're getting JSON. We're literally getting JSON out of a database. And I'm saying I want that JSON content as this type. So it's just adding a little bit extra wordiness, but it may be worthwhile for that to express it that way. And you can also, you know, it's also this expiration and CAS and stuff, so that may be the reason for it. If we wanted to reproduce that, we could create an extension to do that. I don't think it's a huge deal right now. There was that value before, so again, it's not like it's really adding much to the length of the code. And it may actually be improving the expressiveness. So I'm on board. I'm willing to give this the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so there we go. So getting the homepage info and static content. Well, and this, so this comment is lying. And trivia messages. Docs with, it's not 2 AV calls, it's 3 KV calls. So this, I'm wondering why if this comment is even worthwhile. And so creates, yeah, this one's correct. Create docs that don't already exist. Okay. All right, now get a list of everyone with a profile with a nickel what? I guess you just say with nickel. So here's the actual string. Okay, and then query request. So this is different. There's no query request anymore. So how do I do a query with Couchbase .NET SDK version 3? I don't know. Query, yeah, I don't know. So I think I should probably consult the documentation. Docs.couchbase.com, and I'll go up here to .NET. And, you know, I didn't actually work on this documentation recently. I think I did on a previous stream. So you think I would know this, but I can't remember. All right, here we go. Cluster dot, okay, so it's actually a little bit simplified. Okay, I'm remembering now. So it's on the cluster. So this is another thing that's kind of different, is that previously you'd have to use a bucket to execute a query. Technically speaking, you don't execute queries against buckets. You execute against the whole cluster because, and the reason for this is that you can actually join data between buckets. You don't have to, limit your query to just one bucket. And that's going to be the case with collections and scopes and things like that too, I assume. So this isn't, this query request still kind of makes sense, but that's gone. So it's no longer using buckets. So I do need the cluster to do this. Which, how do I get to the cluster? Cluster equals bucket.cluster. Can I get to the cluster from here? Let's see. Default collection. Doesn't look like I can get to the cluster from the bucket object. Can I get to it from the collection? Looks like no. Well, that could be a real problem, because how do I get to the cluster? Does the bucket provider have the cluster? Looks like no. Not there either. So how do I get up to the cluster level? Bucket dot. What do we got? Name, collection, scope. I don't think I can get to it from the scope, can I? Well, right, yeah, Roy, yeah. I know I could literally do that, right, and create a new cluster object. But so if I go back to startup, this is where I configure and instantiate the cluster. I'm using the Couchbase dependency injection extension here. So all that stuff is actually in my app settings file right here. Right, so all that stuff, all this Couchbase config is brought into that. And so this is creating a bucket. I wonder if there's no Couchbase cluster. So this is a named bucket. So I'm just wondering if I have to then bring in like iCluster in here as well. Via the dependency injection. So that's again kind of annoying to do that. That might be something that could be improved on the Couchbase extension there. I might raise that as an issue. But let's just see if it works, I guess. So there's the nickel, and so we're going to actually get the profiles equals cluster, no, underscore cluster dot query async. This should be an await. And this one I actually do specify the type, which is just a string. Profiles nickel, and then we have this options, which I don't think do I have an options? No, there's no option necessary for this one. So what does this actually return? This is just returning query result of string. Okay. Profiles results. And then profiles equals profiles results dot rows. So this is actually reducing the code a little bit. So again, that's kind of nice, except that I have to bring in cluster now. So it might be better if there was some sort of facade for this. I don't know, because I'm going to do this a lot in a lot of different places. Okay, and what have we got here? List of string. So this should be. Oh, this is okay. That's the other thing, is that this is now a async enumerable. This is a new thing as well, because we're using asynchronous here. It's going to be streaming the results to us, basically. Is how this is going to work. So how do I go from async enumerable into what I have here, which is just a plain list? And so there's not going to be a to list. Oh yeah, there is a to list. Look at that. I think that might come from, what is this? Async link. Async link. This one's cancellation token too, so I can put that in here because I have one of those. There we go. All right, easy enough. I can get rid of that. So that's it. Extra step here with the buckets. So I'm going to rename this to bucket, but not bucker. Bucket. Okay, and so that's still there. So I think I've successfully converted this over. A couple things I'm mildly concerned about is I have to bring in this cluster object here, possibly. The second thing is I have to do this right here. I have to get the bucket from the provider and then get the collection from the bucket. So it's a couple extra steps. Not a big deal. And I could, wrap this up into an extension method if I wanted to. But for the most part, not bad. Of course, this is going to blow up all my tests as well. What have we got here? Startup, did I? Oh, looks like I removed a semicolon by accident. Okay, so, I mean, there's lots more to it here to go through this same sort of process. It's going to be a lot of that same kind of stuff. So I kind of want to make sure that I have this right before I proceed, because otherwise I'll be copying and pasting a lot of the same stuff over and over. So, I mean, I've thought about this in the past as well. I could create like an abstract base class that kind of wraps up some of this stuff a little bit. So I could do that as well. But I think what I'm going to do is maybe just create a ticket. GitHub, Couchbase extensions, yes, right here, Couchbase Labs. Although technically, it's not part of Couchbase Labs anymore. This is actually inside a Couchbase NET client. So this is in, well, maybe I look at some of these examples, maybe the answers are there. But if you look here in source, the dependency injection extension is now part of .NET SDK. So if that is the case, one other thing I should do is with my NuGet, thinking about it now, I should remove this extension. I mean, it's still there. It looks like it's still being built. But I want to uninstall the, well, Couchbase NET client. Browse. I'm going to install it in all of these, which is kind of redundant right now. But I want to do this as step one. Okay, and then installed here, I'm going to remove this one. It's just kind of redundant to have those both in there, because dependency injection is part of the .NET client right now. I think that's the case. We're going to find out. Oh, looks like I was wrong. Okay. Okay, so it's in that same code repo, but it's still built as a separate package. All right. That makes sense. All right, and so NuGet solutions packages. Okay. So we don't need this. This can go. Couchbase extensions. And we'll just bring back 3.0.1. There we go. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, I accept. Okay, but what I want to check, there's no way to create issues here, so this might be something. Maybe this is a forum question. You know, and actually this might be something I want to just, well, I don't know. Let's look at some of these examples first. Let's see what's in here. Hey, Dota 2, welcome back. All right. So I don't think there's any, yeah, there's no extension being used in these examples. These are just funny. I just looked at the Ruby Couchbase NET client, which is currently in beta. Version 3.0 of that is currently in beta. So not really an example there. That's the one I'll be using. You'll be using Ruby. Oh boy. I do not know Ruby. I just do not know it. So this, I wonder if that other project is, oh gosh, pretty rough on Ruby 2. I'm more of a React guy. Well, React is more of a front end sort of thing. So that would be JavaScript, would be the language there. Couchbase extensions, dependency injections. Okay. So this has been updated in a long time. Oh, 20 days ago. There it is. Okay. And looking at the branches, I'm not seeing anything about version 3 here. Upgrade to Couchbase 3.0. So this is... Okay. Just wondering if this, where the right place is to raise this issue. It's not, it may not be an issue, it's maybe just be a question. Something that I'm missing, maybe it may just be confirmation that, yeah, this is the way you're supposed to do it. So maybe instead of tackling this whole project, I should just try a little sample project. But I guess the main concern for me is that if I have bucket provider, I can't get to a query. Let me just verify that is the case. There's no query there. There's no query there. And there's no way to get to a cluster. I think I've checked that already. See, dispose. Yeah, nothing to do with queries. Okay. So that's really what I want to check into. I'm just wondering if this bucket provider shouldn't have access to the query in it as well. Or not the query, the cluster. Because otherwise, what I'm doing is I'm passing on the cluster. I can get the bucket from the cluster, but I can't right now get to the cluster from the bucket or the bucket provider. So it seems like some redundancy here, like some overlap for sure. So I need to figure out if this just needs to be an enhancement to this or what. I could probably submit a PR for that enhancement. Sorry. You want to go from cluster to buckets. Well, what I prefer to do is go from bucket provider to cluster, if that's possible. But really what I want to do is I just want to get a query in. That's all I really care about. I don't, whatever, I want to go through as few hoops as possible to execute this query down here. Right now I have to inject the cluster and then use the cluster to do the query, which is, separate from the buckets, which is fine, because you can query between multiple buckets, so that makes sense to me. But I have to introduce these extra pieces in here, which could mean a lot more injection, a lot more sort of wiring code. Whereas if I could get to the cluster from the bucket, or I could get to a query from the bucket provider, I don't know if that doesn't really make sense, but either way, if I could get to a query somehow from bucket provider, I wouldn't have to inject this cluster object as part of it. I suspect that's going to be a fairly common thing people want to do. They could do it before. Bucket provider, you could get to bucket. From bucket, you can get to query. You could do that before. Now what you're saying, well, if using bucket provider, you can still get to key value, but you can't get to query. Bucket goes in the connection string, cluster wouldn't, right? No, so if we're talking connection strings, we're back over to like app settings. I'm not using a connection string right now, but if you had a connection string, you would just specify the one or more of the well, like the DNS, SRV probably, but one or more of the nodes via like a URL, kind of like this. And then bucket name. This is nothing to do with connecting. So when I connect to Couchbase here, all I really need is the server or servers and username and password. And then bucket I actually use right here. You can see this is the second line where I'm using a named bucket provider, which you don't have to do. You can just use a generic bucket provider, but I figured I was going to use this one often enough. A named bucket provider made more sense, so I'm just pulling that name from here. So the bucket name itself isn't really part of the connection. You don't connect to a bucket, you connect to a cluster. So you can think of bucket again, kind of like a I don't know. It's not something you connect to. Can you do select stuff from bucket.table? So again, there's no tables at all, but yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm actually doing here. Is I'm selecting select from the bucket, and then where. So there's no table, right? So in the future, I don't know how this is going to work, but in the future, you'll be able to specify scope and collection in your SQL query. But for right now, it's all in one bucket. I'm really just using one bucket and default collection, default scope. So there's no other separation. So the way I separate is I just have a type field where type equals profile. This is kind of like saying select from profile table. Kind of like saying that. Yeah, you're just trying to make it similar. Yeah, I mean, it is SQL, right? So if we go back over to here, right? I select star, well, t.star from travel sample. Zoom in a little bit. T, right? So the thing is, that gives me everything in the travel sample bucket. And there's, different types here. There's a landmark, there's hotels, there's airports, other stuff in there. So kind of the closest equivalent to a table would be, say, okay, well, I just want the routes documents. Give me the first 10 route documents. And there we go. Or give me the first 10 landmark documents. Now, again, in the future, as we add scopes and collection, I don't know how that syntax is going to work, but it might be something like, I don't know, travel sample dot, whatever scope dot, whatever collection, something like that. And that would this would be like landmarks, for instance, right? And that would be just only landmarks. So I wouldn't have to have the where t.type equals landmark. I wouldn't need that. Again, I don't know if that's how it's going to work. I have no idea how they're going to have the syntax for collections and scopes in Nickel yet. I haven't seen any of that effort. But something like that is what I'd expect it to be. Something similar to this approach. And these backticks, as we've discussed already, these are just for escaping. So in these cases, those names are fine without backticks. So something like that, right? And if we didn't have the dash here, it would be even simpler. It'd be like that. Again, I don't know for sure, but that's how I expect it to look, something like that. All right. Well, so that is kind of it for today. I could go through and brute force all these other errors here, but it's going to be very similar to what I just did here. It's going to be changing this to use collection and updating exists and async and query as needed, and inputting cluster as needed, and whenever there's a async enumerable, using a toList async when applicable. So it's going to be a lot of that. But I want to make sure I have this right before I just go and spread it everywhere on my whole application. So I'm going to have to ask around. So the DB calls are async. Do you have transactions? Yeah. Everything's async here. You could use synchronous methods in the older version, but this new version, version 3, it's, I think, entirely async. It's async only, right? So I don't have a synchronous option. Do you have transactions? In .NET, no transactions yet. transactions are available for Couchbase if you're using Java. But they will be coming to other languages soon. So I think C++ is up next, and then .NET. Again, I'm not on those teams, so I just kind of go by what they told me. I think that's the last thing they said. Need them for race conditions, if I recall correctly. Race conditions, no. Race conditions, you can if that's your main concern, you can deal with that using concurrency. So you can use locking, so optimistic locking or pessimistic locking. However, what you do need transactions for if you're trying to update two documents and you want those updates to either all succeed or all fail, which in the NoSQL world, you don't need as much because your data is not split up as much as it is in relational, but you still might need them. And that was actually my presentation at NDC Oslo, was on ACID transactions for NoSQL. And I showed a Java demo. I showed it on the stream before in the past, showing that in Java and how it works. It's very cool. It's client side with Couchbase, which is a different approach than a lot of other databases are taking. They're doing it server side, which has some interesting drawbacks of its own. Couchbase has for now anyway taken the client side route. If you use transactions, it decreases likelihood of race conditions, though. Not exactly true, because it's doing the query almost instantaneously. Again, so race conditions is a different thing than transactions. Now, I will say a transaction will need to use some sort of locking behind the scenes to avoid inconsistent data. But it's really two different things that you're talking about here. You want to use transactions to make sure your data is consistent. A race condition you want to avoid basically problems with concurrency. Two different clients hitting a database at the same time, or close to the same time, right? You don't necessarily want them to overlap or interfere with each other, right? So somewhat related, yeah, because they're both kind of related to concurrency in a sense, but different concepts. Alrighty, I think I'm going to shut it down for the day because I don't want to dive into this much more until I know I'm on the right path. If I'm on the right path, I will come back on Thursday and we'll continue this. If I'm not, I will come back on Thursday and tell you what is the right path to take. So for right now, I would like to get your opinion, chat, on who to raid. And yes, I got to reply to Dota's email. We're going to get Dota on a future episode. Whom shall I raid? Got some options here. Codephobia. I don't think I've been raiding Codephobia in a while, but I think I maybe remember Codephobia being non-English, so that may be why I haven't done that. Layla Codes It? I don't think I've raided Layla Codes It, or did I? I don't. I'm having a hard time keeping track.
Then we're gonna run.
Looks like English. Okay, we're gonna raid Codephobia. Code is the real estate guy. Codephobia. All right, so if you are joining me in the raid, here is a fun message. What? Why isn't my bot? Hello, bot. Let me refresh. It should be working. I don't know. Okay, hello, are you there? There we go. Okay, I don't know what happened. The bot fell asleep. But copy and paste that into the channel as we go into Codephobia, and be nice to Codephobia. Give them a nice hearty round of raids and raid messages, and keep it going over there. So I'm going to call it for the day. I'll be back on Thursday. I think I'll be back on Thursday around 2 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. So I look forward to seeing you again there. We'll continue our refactoring. But that's it for now. So I hope you all have a good day. Later on.
No file.